Be a part of the best pro wrestling podcast today by supporting the Going In Raw Patreon. You can enjoy access to the live taping of the show, exclusive merchandise, and patron-only episodes, and so much more. Support Going In Raw today. Click the link in the description. Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Matt Chat, the pro wrestling show where the Pro Wrestling Roundtable talk show.
It's very much a square table.
Where we discuss pro wrestling topics that we debate. Man, I've got so many great ideas for what the final form of Matt Chat.
Well, we should discuss these ideas.
No, listen. You're gonna hand the show off to me. Well, you could do like this stuff where you're like actually listen to video questions and then write down,
So the busy work.
Yeah, the busy work. But then the theatrics. The production.
Again, I think
leave that to me.
I think this should all be discussed. I mean, it shouldn't be a unilateral thing.
I'm gonna blow it all up. You're gonna be blown away.
I'm so tired of this blow it all up garbage.
I'm gonna blow it all up, Larson.
That's my concern. You're gonna blow it up.
Listen, man. Oh, it's gonna be so good.
Are you thinking sepia tone gradient overlay?
I'm not gonna go that far, but
some coral.
Oh, it's gonna be good.
Coral filter. I mean, there's all stuff we can talk about. This stuff I could do.
What is coral? No, but listen, it has to be under the supervision of an auteur.
Oh God.
Yeah, you heard me right. It's gonna be good. I have to be hands on. I'll take it over from you. Give you more time to program other things. We're also available on the Patreon at patreon.com/Steve.
I'm not gonna hand anything over to you until you produce this endlessly burning cigarette you want on the set. Until that happens, you get nothing.
It's a fakie. It's not real. You're not going to actually, it's not going to be.
That's not my concern. You said you want a cigarette that's burning the entire time.
Here.
And then you have yet to produce it. You have yet to tell me how we could do that without using an actual cigarette, which I don't want to be around for an hour straight.
There's nothing to it. It's fake.
Well, let's see it.
It's fake.
Let's see it. Make it happen.
I don't have it with me
If
here.
you're such an auteur, let's see it. Let's see your vision made manifest here on the table.
Don't you trust me?
I just feel like we should discuss things.
Don't you trust me?
I feel like we should.
Do you trust me?
Tell me
you trust me.
For the most part.
Do you trust me?
For the most part.
Do you trust me? Tell me you're my friend. Listen up. We're on the Patreon at patreon.com/Stephen Larson. And in fact, our $20 a month and up patrons, we love them so much because they give us so much money. And in return, they are featured here on Matt Chat. Even the video questions I have a great idea for.
Again, let's discuss it.
Put them all through Snapchat filters.
No.
The doggy thing?
No, absolutely not.
No? All right.
If that's your vision, then you can take that vision to your channel.
You know what? That was a test. It was a joke. It was a test.
Sure it was.
All right. So, anyways, and so we have another great slew of questions from our $20 and up patrons. Of course, you too can be a part of Matt Chat, part of the show for $20 a month on Patreon at patreon.com/Stephen Larson. We've got a bunch of great questions. We're on the lead up to Survivor Series right now.
We are.
And we've got some great questions sort of surrounding that kind of stuff and other things. So let's kick it off with Zach Parks up first.
Let's see what Zach has to say.
Yeah. G'day, friendos. It's the Down Undertaker, Zach Parks here with another video debate question. I'm just going to keep it quick as you guys have asked for. It's a pretty simple one. I've been thinking about heel turns recently, so I wanted to ask you guys, Steve and Larson, pick whichever side you want. Which heel turn would be more effective long term, and which would have more of an impact straight away as well? Finn Balor or Jason Jordan? I think we all know Jason Jordan can wrestle really well, so I think a heel turn would be a really good way to help him find a character. And Finn Balor, obviously, with New Japan, does really well as a heel. So you guys let me know. Which heel turn would you think would be more effective short term and long term? Cheers, friendos. Catch up.
Thank you, Zach Parks.
Thank you, Zach Parks. It's Jason Jordan. It is plainly Jason Jordan. As much as I loved tweener Finn Balor, Bullet Club Finn Balor, Prince Devitt in Bullet Club in New Japan, I think that aspect of his personality would be great to see right now. Jason Jordan desperately needs something to make anyone care about him. The fact of the matter is he's one of the best pure wrestlers on the roster. He might be served by giving him by giving him a Dean Malenko type personality, which is like anti-personality.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, people love the Iceman because he was all about business. If Jason Jordan stopped that sort of wide-eyed, gee, golly, kind of thing that he's doing, then I think he might have a better chance than what they're going with right now. Barring that, a heel turn, if they need to give him some sort of character, which they desperately need to do, a heel turn for Jason Jordan right now, given that he already has the physical tools, the wrestling tools, the look, given that he already has all that, I liken this, and this is a pretty big quantum leap in terms of comparisons. But if you remember a young man who came out in 2002 on an episode of SmackDown to challenge to answer a Kurt Angle challenge, John Cena, he had almost the exact same outfit that Jason Jordan currently sports, with just the bright neon spandex shorts rather. He came out and he said, "I'm all about ruthless aggression." And he was quickly going nowhere until he busted out some Vanilla Ice rhymes or some crap on a Halloween episode of SmackDown. And then he transitioned into the Doctor of Thugonomics, doing, sort of the jerseys and jorts and pump up shoes gimmick. And that propelled him to superstardom. I don't think that Jason Jordan can quite match that level of success. However, he needs that type of heel turn that could transition into tweener. I definitely think right now, Finn Balor, he's already over. He is already over. They don't need to do anything with him to continue his run of being supremely over. I do think a heel turn could probably take him to the next level. But in terms of who needs it more now, who would it be more effective for now? For Jason Jordan, it would be a sea change for him, and a much needed one, because this whole Kurt Angle son thing is going nowhere quickly. Jason Jordan's the right answer.
There was two aspects to Zach Park's question. One was, of course, short-term, who would benefit more. Secondly, long-term, who would benefit more. Here's the thing. Short-term, yes, Jason Jordan turning heel would help him, would benefit him, because he needs to do something. He needs some dimension to his character. Mm-hmm. But who knows if that short-term boost of momentum would translate into any semblance of long-term success. It could be a heel turn that goes nowhere. We don't know that. We don't know how he can handle a real heel turn. We don't know these things. But we do know, we have evidence of how Finn Balor can handle a heel turn, and it's produced marvelous results in New Japan as leader of Bullet Club. We have a mountain of evidence to support this, that Finn Balor, Prince Devitt, was a good heel. A great heel.
Great heel.
Great heel. So this is what you do. Finn is incredibly marketable now, especially his demon persona. What? I have notes.
I was hoping you'd write them in here.
No, you can't cheat. These are my notes, not ours. I have a vision. I'm fulfilling my vision.
So much anger.
It's been a long day, a difficult day.
Do you trust me? All right, continue.
Anyways, Finn right now, especially his demon persona, is exceptionally marketable. So it's not going to be a heel turn that's going to happen anytime soon. It's going to be another year or so, 2 years probably before this will happen. Again, I'm talking long term, not just short term. So what you do, great face run, which makes his heel turn all the more shocking. He takes Gallows. He takes Carl Anderson, reforms a Bullet Club-esque faction that runs roughshod over Raw. Bring all that back. Get as close to calling the Bullet Club as you can. I don't care.
They did that before.
That's money. Huge, huge, huge money. And it would be awesome. And it could be a scenario where Finn has an awesome face run, turns heel, has an awesome heel run, gets so popular because of his awesome work as a heel, he can have an even more incredible, more impactful face run. So if you're looking long term, Finn Balor is the right answer. He absolutely is, because we've seen evidence that he can do it. We haven't seen that with Jason Jordan yet. And if how creative has handled Jason Jordan thus far is any indication, I don't have a whole lot of confidence in them writing a decent storyline for Jason Jordan. Finn Balor, just this last week on Raw, during the post-match brawl with Samoa Joe, he showed a level of intensity you haven't seen from him in a while. And that's something that's not up to creative per se. That's something Finn brings to the table, I'm guessing, himself. He knows when he needs to turn it on. And an awesome heel run for Finn Balor would actually give him a real opportunity to show off more of his personality, which we saw in New Japan. And we haven't seen a ton of so far during his time as face Finn in WWE. So Finn Balor, if we're looking, from a distance, macro, not a microcosm, macrocosm, Finn Balor is the correct answer. Money.
Let me ask you something.
What?
Triple H seems to be the guy who had his eyes on Finn Balor, bringing in guys like him, Kevin Steen.
Do you think Vince McMahon watches New Japan Pro Wrestling?
No, not at all.
No.
He might January 4th. Isn't it interesting that seeing what Finn Balor did in New Japan, he brought over Finn Balor to NXT and didn't have him do any of the Finn Balor personality stuff?
I mean, I could see. I mean, Finn. He exudes cool. He's a handsome guy. Especially the demon gimmick, as we've seen, is extremely marketable. I can see the ingredients there where you see Fergal Devitt and think, oh man, he's gonna be a huge face. I see that.
Yeah, but it's just interesting to me. He's a good-looking young guy. He looks like nobody else. He did demon-esque things.
Yeah,
he would
did
dress
the
up,
body
the Joker,
paint.
the
Yeah.
body paint, stuff like that. You could do that. You could do the demon gimmick with kind of anybody. Maybe Triple H's vision was this guy looks so cool, he could be a supremely overfaced by doing this demon thing. Maybe Triple H did think this guy could be another Undertaker. He could be the real successor to the Undertaker, not Bray Wyatt, but Finn Balor.
Yeah.
I could kind of get that. But seeing his heel work in New Japan, he's such a riveting character who could be not just a tweener, but a supremely overface with that same attitude that he had.
Yeah.
It's surprising that he didn't bring that over too.
I know. There was, even back in his NXT days, there wasn't a whole lot of dimension to the
There
Finn
wasn't.
Balor
That was the
character.
main knock you had on him, was that you didn't see a lot of dimension there. But then you go back and look at him in New Japan, and he's got this. It's like part hooligan, if you will, part thug, if you will. Just villainous type guy that has, I mean, he looks like kind of a crazy guy. Like when his eyes get really wide, he looks kind of like it. And that is a recipe for a mega star.
Yeah, I don't know why they've yet to explore that.
Kind of interesting. Curious to know if there is an answer there. If Triple H just saw him and said, hey, you know what? There are elements here that I think can be a massively over guy. I'm not sure that scary stuff, because the personality stuff is the scary stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of stuff that he was doing back then. Putting your head up against somebody and acting like you're executing. That's pretty dark.
Yeah, but obviously the WWE is not going to be doing that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. It's just interesting to me they never did that. I think the answer is somewhere in between. I agree with your point that the WWE, that we don't know what Jason Jordan would be like as a heel. And I agree with the Finn Balor stuff. But with Jason Jordan, Finn Balor, they already have a property that they know.
Oh, I know.
Is money. Jason Jordan.
But there is a tried and true recipe, a formula for, and granted, it doesn't work for everybody, for catapulting someone into greater success. We've seen it countless times.
Yeah, for sure.
It's the awesome heel run that is eventually embraced by the crowd, which leads to a huge face run.
You have to wonder, though, in the short term, how would a crowd right now, knowing Finn Balor going, let's say they know Finn Balor going to NXT.
You couldn't do it right now with Finn. You couldn't do it.
How would you do it? Like, would you wait until he got stale?
No, you'd have to wait till right before he got stale.
Yeah.
That's what you'd have to do. You can't do it right now.
Yeah.
You need another year or two.
Boy, the crowd would really have to, and you'd have to emphasize. You'd have to say, listen, you have to bring that personality that we saw in New Japan, minus the execution stuff. Bring that out 100%, and people will eventually really want to love that. Like they love to hate you
I'm
right
sure.
now,
I'm sure Finn completely gets it.
Yeah.
I'm sure he understands the appeal of that gimmick.
Yeah.
I wonder if a part of him is disappointed he can't do it.
Yeah, I wonder that as well. You know, it's like you see so much of his personality in his social media.
Yeah.
I wonder if he ever wonders, man, you know, it'd be great if I could just not come out here and just look cool for once.
I know.
It'd be great if like one time I can actually come out here and just freaking rant the way because we know he's so comfortable on the mic.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So, anyways, good question. Who's next?
Next is Michael Berry. Let's see what Michael Berry has to say.
All right.
What's going on, friendos? Quick question for the debate. What should the WWE do with Pete Dunne in the United Kingdom Championship right now? Should they just scrap the championship, put him in 205 Live? Should they keep the championship around but let non-UK people challenge for it? Push him to main, put him in NXT? What is the best possible situation for Pete Dunne right now?
Thank you, Michael Berry.
Thank you, Michael Berry.
So, what should WWE do with Pete Dunne in the UK title? Michael Berry asked. I'll go first. They should add an extra hour to NXT.
I like that idea.
So every week, 2 hours of NXT. You will fill that second hour with all the independent talents NXT is signing, with the new signees from the Mae Young Classic, and especially competitors from the United Kingdom tournament. Bring them to NXT, and here is why. Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, and Trent Seven are ready for the main roster now. Here's the thing, though, and this is a somewhat selfish argument on my part.
Okay.
I want to see them in NXT because I know in NXT they can wrestle to their fullest capabilities. You're going to see them put on amazing matches on a regular basis, which they won't get the opportunity to do on main. And my worry is if they go to main, especially Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, they're going to be shipped to 205 Live, which from a wrestling perspective would be an improvement over Raw, but they're going to be stuck on 205 Live without opportunities potentially to elevate themselves beyond the show, because it seems like from every indication we got that if you're on 205 Live, you're on 205 Live. And you're not going to get to interact with the rest of the Raw roster a whole lot, if at all. And that's a bummer, because Pete Dunne especially is a massive star just waiting to blow up.
Huge star.
He is a huge star. So I'd much rather see the UK competitors go to NXT where they can wrestle awesome matches all the time, and they have a more direct path, I would hope, to Raw or SmackDown versus just going to 205 Live, because that's my worry. I want all the wrestlers of WWE, I want them to be given every opportunity to achieve the greatest success they can. And I don't know the way 205 Live right now is viewed by Vince. If that's necessarily the case. I think when someone is sent to 205 Live, they're on 205 Live. I don't want that to happen. I say this all the time. Crossover between Cruiserweight division and everybody else on Raw. I think it would enhance the quality of 205 Live. I think it would
How
give.
did you land into that territory, man? Stick to the topic.
I am. And it would give competitors on 205 Live more opportunities to achieve greater success. Anyways, that's not the case now.
Man, they better not put Pete Dunne on 205 Live. Ooh.
No, but who did he wrestle on Raw?
I will riot.
Cruiserweight champion. They
will
made a point of
riot.
saying that Pete Dunne weighed 205 pounds.
Oh, did they really make a point?
Yep. Another reason, NXT, year in NXT, not even that, 8 months. Bring him up to main, put the Intercontinental Championship on him. Trent Seven can win the United Kingdom title. Make it happen.
Yeah, all right.
NXT is the correct answer.
Nah, man, bring him straight up to main. I was actually disappointed when, you think about it, and it seems obvious, but I was kind of curious. So that little idiot part of me that's hopeful saw Pete Dunne show up on Raw and thought, maybe this is just his debut, and they're gonna sweep him along up with the rest. And I know that's not going to happen. I understand that's not going to happen
because we saw later on the show that the United Kingdom division is going to be on 205 Live.
But here's my thing, dude. SmackDown is really good at Raw can feel very bloated at times. They can get, and lately it's actually been pretty good. But from time to time, it can feel a bit like they're, adding some filler stuff. Granted, I know I love Elias. Him and Jason Jordan's feud doesn't really feel consequential. Jeez. Put the UK division on Raw. Put Pete Dunne on Raw immediately. They can bring something fresh. They can invade. They can infect the roster with something brand new, with something not seen before. As much as I love NXT, and I completely agree with your point about the wrestling stuff, and in the end, that kind of matters the most. But I feel like they have been waiting this long that they need to bypass NXT, go straight to the big main show, go straight to Raw, Pete Dunne looked like $1,000,000. He looked like he was ready. He looked like that was his moment coming out on Raw. I'd love to see Trent Seven out there interacting with the other guys on Raw. I'd love to see Tyler Bate there interacting with the other guys on Raw and not on 205 Live. I want to see all that. I think they've waited long enough that NXT is just more waiting for them to get to their eventual point of where they need to be yesterday, and that is on the main roster. That is Raw. I know they've got the Cruiserweight division. They made such a big deal. Oh, Raw has the Cruiserweight division. Well, the Cruiserweight division has their own show that they don't need to be spotlighting on Raw. Maybe a match, maybe a recap just to say, hey, 205 Live. Maybe I don't know. I don't know how you reconfigure it, but I just it to me it's similar to the European Championship back in the day. They kind of need another lower division belt or another mid-level belt to add to the show. There's too much talent. That's another belt people can use. If Braun Strowman gets that IC title,
hold on,
that's going to lock that title up.
I think we've answered a question similar to this before, and I made that point. And you were like, no.
No what?
Don't use the United Kingdom title as a mid-card belt because people who aren't from the United Kingdom shouldn't win it. You told me that.
Right, yeah, but that's probably when I was arguing that the UK title needs to be on its own show.
You were?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. That was a different show.
All right.
That was a different day, a different time,
all right,
and a different answer, Larson.
All right.
This is my time now. I'm the game.
All right.
So anyways, yeah, the answer is bring him over to Raw. Honestly, I'll get my real answer now. I don't know.
It's NXT.
I don't know that it is NXT because here's the thing. These guys they're too big for NXT in my opinion.
I agree.
I agree. At this point they're too established.
But I feel like at the same time if they go to Raw without having time in NXT to really build up their individual brands, they might get lost in the shuffle. That's
okay, well, hold on a second though. We haven't explored the other route. Like we're keeping it real now. And I think you've made your point about NXT and you've been consistent with that and I appreciate that. My point was always give them their own European show.
Yeah.
And then at that point, the guys who really stand out, bring them up to main. They don't need to go up to NXT. That could be their own version.
That would be the ideal. Whether that would happen, who knows? But yes, that would be the ideal.
So, I mean, the question really is, if you had your druthers, if you were God of WWE, if you were Vince McMahon, all of a sudden, if you were put in that position, what would you want to see most? And my option would be, do a UK show, the cream of that crop gets brought up through the draft or gets brought up through the regular call-ups or whatever. And that's the route that you go.
I mean, if I were Vince McMahon, but I had my sensibilities still, I would see that Pete Dunne, especially, is just waiting to blow up, and I'm bringing up the main right away.
Yeah, I know. I mean, seeing him on Raw, it just fits so well. And I'll always go back to that scenario that we had really hoped would happen when Triple H, Samoa Joe, and Kevin Owens were going to be the new Evolution. And with Pete Dunne.
Oh, that'd been incredible.
That was some dang good fantasy booking from you and me. I thought that was some really, really good stuff.
The one thing I was disappointed by Pete Dunne's appearance on Raw was that he didn't hold the belt by his mouth.
Yeah, I know. He didn't come out with the belt in his mouth.
Yeah.
He just looked so excited to be out there.
I know. I guess face Pete Dunne doesn't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it makes me sad. I don't want to see face Pete Dunne.
No. Corey Graves was going on about how miserable he was. So
yeah. All right, next up, who do we have next?
From Alexander Corrente. Let's see what Alexander has to say.
What's up, friendos? The question last week seemed to garner pretty good discussion between you guys and the comment section, actually. So this week I'm going to stick to the same theme. Who was better, Ric Flair or The Undertaker? Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Alexander.
All right. Well, look, it's The Undertaker. The Undertaker. I argued this when we talked about who should, based on credentials, go to the Hall of Fame first, who has more priority, The Rock or The Undertaker. It's The Undertaker. The man's been around since, was it 91? 91? 90?
Well, WWF, yeah.
Yeah, WWE. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
But he wrestled in WCW before that.
Yeah, but come on. His legacy.
Hey, don't discount the impact of Mean Mark Callis.
Legacy in the WWE, which is now the biggest promotion in the world. He's been doing it ever since then. He's probably going to do it again at WrestleMania. He could have gone to the Hall of Fame 5 years ago, 10 years ago even. Ric Flair, when he showed up in the WWF in 1991, 1992, 91, 92, whatever it was. Was it the Rumble 92? I don't know what it was.
That's not when
No, that's when he won.
That's when he won the belt, though.
Yeah, but his debut was in 91.
Yeah.
Right? When that happened, some people didn't even know who Ric Flair was. Because they're like, what is WC, the NWA? What is that? What the hell is that, you sack of potatoes? Nobody knows what that was. So, and then he was only there for 18 months. And then he was back to WCW. You know what I mean? He wasn't even really there. And then when he did show up for a second time,
We're not just talking about in WWE, WWF. We're talking about who's better, period.
The Undertaker, because he did it for a lot longer. I kind of think this is Ric Flair.
It is Ric Flair. That is the right answer. Ric Flair is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
Okay, no, listen, I'm going to keep going, though.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm going to keep going. Ric Flair doesn't have any legacy, like a streak like The Undertaker did at WrestleMania. The Undertaker was above everything. He was above brand, above company, above everything. And to this day, when people say his name, Ric Flair, he'd lose to everybody. How many times he lost so often? Undertaker didn't do that he didn't lose very often. The answer is Ric Flair. Go ahead, talk about Ric Flair.
It is Ric
We're about
Flair.
to watch that 30 for 30 tonight.
Yeah, we are. I can go on and on. We can fill up an hour-long podcast why Ric Flair is way better than pretty much anybody.
I love Ric Flair, man.
Ric Flair is great.
Also, he lived the gimmick.
He did.
Undertaker, I don't think you can live that gimmick unless
He
you're
did.
like...
Undertaker, to his credit, lived it to the best he could.
Well, he
most-
never broke character, huh?
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Speaking of legacy, 16-time at least world champion Ric Flair, depending on how the count is
at least,
being
yeah.
done.
16
It
is
could
low
be
number,
18
yeah.
or it could be in the
I think
20s.
I think he'd be like 25, yeah.
Yeah, which is the most ever. Involved in some classic rivalries against Steamboat, Dusty, Terry Funk.
Listen, Harley Race, baby.
I know.
I know. Sting.
Ric Flair survived.
RoboCop.
Yes, survived the plane crash,
Yeah.
and he was struck by lightning.
Yeah.
He survived both those things.
Was he actually struck by lightning?
Yes.
I don't remember that part.
And he recently survived a health scare which said that he had like a 20% chance of living.
Hey, we were on Ric Flair RIP watch, and he's back, and he's probably going to be making his return. I think he's supposed to be coming back at Starrcade, isn't he?
Yep. Supposed to make an appearance at Starrcade.
Yeah.
And if you asked people who became wrestlers, who watched wrestling in the 70s and especially the 80s, it seems to me that a lot of people, they understood the influence of Hulk Hogan on the industry. But if you ask them who their favorite wrestler was, it seems like a majority of the time it's Ric Flair. I don't know if there's been a wrestler who's been more influential on other wrestlers as Ric Flair. And for that reason and countless more I could list. I can go on and on and on. Ric Flair is the correct answer.
Ric Flair, in my book, might be the greatest professional wrestler of all time.
Yeah, I think he is.
Because that dude was putting on 5-star matches. That dude was the best talker there's ever been.
Yep. And to think about in his early days, especially in the late 70s and the first half of the 80s at least, the schedule he was doing, wrestling 7 days a week, 8 matches a week, hour-long time limit draws a lot of the time. His job as champion was to go to these various territories and make their top guy look great so that territory could draw. And from all accounts, he did that just as well, if not better than anybody else.
And people really believed Ric Flair. Like, back then, people really thought, I don't honestly know, like, if people thought it was real or not. That's a fascinating question to me, by the way, because my dad talks about going to the shows that they were putting on out here. I think it was AWA. Used to put shows here on the West Coast. Or Big Time, I forget what it was, but Pat Patterson.
They used to run the Cow Palace.
Yeah, exactly. And at the Memorial Auditorium. And I asked him, I was like, did anybody think it was real? He was like, I never thought it was real. So, and that was back in like the 70s.
Yeah.
So, but you look at some of that stuff in the South and some of this NWA stuff with Ric Flair, and it's like, either those people were so into the show or they thought it was real. Some of the reactions to some of those matches made me think some of these people think this is real, and maybe they did. And hey, credit to the wrestlers for making it look real.
Yeah.
But holy crap,
Yeah.
and the reaction that Flair would get.
Oh, he was, because partially he lived his gimmick.
He was so believable.
Convincing. Entirely convincing.
Yeah.
No, the correct answer is Ric Flair.
Yeah, the correct answer is Ric Flair. Look, here's the thing. This is Matt Chat, and we can try to debate topics that our good patrons are asking us to debate. But at the end of the day, we can only go so far.
If you ask the Undertaker who was better, Undertaker or Ric Flair, what do you think the Undertaker would say?
Oh, Ric Flair.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Who's up next?
Next from Jason Balderson. Let's see what Jason has to say.
Hey there, friendos. It's your good friend Jay here, all the way from rainy Hartlepool, England, with my first ever video question. So I've been watching a lot of content on the WWE Network recently, and there's a lot of great stuff on there, as we all know. It got me to thinking, what do you guys think is the greatest wrestling show ever? Personally, I'm a big fan of WrestleMania 17, as are a lot of people. I was wondering what you guys think is the best one. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you very much.
The answer is wait, who goes first?
You
here?
do.
Okay, the answer is WrestleMania 18. Look at this card. Look at WrestleMania. Do you remember why am I having problems freaking typing right now?
I don't know.
Do you remember that crap Invasion pay-per-view where it was supposed to be WCW versus WWE?
Yeah, it's called Invasion.
Yeah, Invasion. That's what I said, the crappy Invasion angle pay-per-view thing.
Yeah, but the pay-per-view was called
That wasn't the real Invasion. The biggest storyline in the history of modern pro wrestling was WWF versus WCW.
Yeah.
Because it was real.
Yeah.
It played out in ratings. It played out in the hearts of the fans. Who would win this ultimately? And ultimately, the WWE, as we all know, won.
Yeah.
However, if you look at WrestleMania 18, look at this card.
Well, I can't see it. You have to read it to me.
DDP versus Christian. That was when DDP was doing his.
That was for the European title, wasn't it?
Correct. Yeah.
Yes.
DDP was doing the
motivational speaker stuff.
Yeah. RVD. Look at this lineup. RVD versus William Regal. Maven versus Goldust. I don't know. That's
You
not.
probably should have started from the bottom and went to the top.
I'm building up.
Bottom
No,
to
you
go
gotta end with your best. Kurt Angle versus Kane. Whatever. Undertaker, speaking of which, Undertaker versus Ric Flair, which featured a run-in from Arn Anderson, who delivered a spine buster.
That was a good match.
A pitch perfect. That was a great match. That was a fantastic match. Edge versus Booker T. Tell me that ain't a dream match. That's right good. There. That's fantastic. Steve Austin versus the NWO.
Oh, Scott Hall.
I know, but Kevin Nash was out there, and granted, the match wasn't what everybody had really hoped for. But iconically, if you just think about it, Stone Cold versus the NWO, arguably two of the biggest forces in wrestling.
Yeah.
One of them catapulted one company, the other catapulted the other company, and they clashed. And that was in the middle of the card. Billy and Chuck. But versus the APA, the Dudley Boys, and the Hardy Boys. All right, say what you will. Of course, Rock versus Hogan. That, to me, was one of the most spine-tingling matches in the history of wrestling. And then Triple H versus Chris Jericho, which, whatever. But you had some of the most iconic names in all of wrestling from the previous 5 to 10 years coming together, dream match after dream match. It's WrestleMania 18. Best show of all time. I remember watching it. Were you there with me? We went to
No, I wasn't there.
What was it called? Shoney's? Was it Shoney's?
No.
What was that place?
Shoney's in Ackworth, Georgia, man.
What was that place called?
Yankee Doodles?
Yankee Doodles. It was
No, I wasn't
Why
there.
did they call it Shoney's? That's weird.
I don't know.
You fat bastard. It was at Yankee Doodles.
No, I didn't go.
Surrounded by marks.
I don't think I went.
Marks everywhere.
I watched WrestleMania 19, I think, with you at a friend's house.
Friendo's house.
Yes. But here's the thing. WrestleMania 18, I guess, generally speaking, isn't even considered the best WrestleMania.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
That's 19.
Yeah, well, whatever. Kurt Angle versus Brock Lesnar. Who cares? This right here had the dream match lineup. And not all the matches hit. They rarely do. WrestleMania 19, they talk about that Kurt Angle Brock Lesnar match. Yeah, I love seeing a guy almost decapitate himself. That's fun.
Well, everything before that was fantastic, though. Here's the correct answer. If you want to see the power of in-ring storytelling at its fullest,
overrated.
No. The best pure 3 hours of wrestling storytelling to probably ever exist is Survivor Series 98, Deadly Games.
Before you continue, can I just remind you and everybody at home, you're about to espouse the virtue of Vince Russo's typewriter.
That's fine.
Please continue.
What do I say? Every band has one good song in them.
There you go.
This is Vince Russo's one great song, as far as I'm concerned. Because top to bottom, in terms of storytelling, in terms of, it was a tournament all in one night to determine the WWF champion. Mm-hmm. Going into this, The Rock had more or less turned face. He was on the way up, nearly challenging Stone Cold in terms of popularity. Mankind, Mick Foley, had aligned himself with the McMahons. And it seemed like everything was in place for him to finally claim what had eluded him his entire career, the WWF title. And so The Rock and Mankind seemed to be on a collision course. Nonetheless, it didn't lessen the drama in any way of all the other matches. And there were a lot of them. There were 13 on the main card. Because
way too many matches.
No, because storytelling-wise, it was great. The finish, the last match, the finals, was The Rock versus Mankind. One of the great double turns in wrestling history where The Rock turned heel again, aligned himself with the McMahons, and in a finish reminiscent of Survivor Series 97, put Mankind to sharpshooter. Vince called for the bell. The Rock, heel Rock, is your WWF champion, his first WWF championship. Top to bottom, great storytelling. The match between The Rock and Mankind was great. Everything about the show is great. Best pay-per-view ever, best wrestling show ever.
Of course, we're both wrong. It's actually Wrestle War 1990, which was Wild Thing.
Wild Thing.
Yeah, that was the best. Look at that poster. Look at Ric Flair, little Lex Luger down here with a drop shadow.
Why is he posing in front of Ric Flair's chest?
I mean, if you take this picture to its logical conclusion, Ric Flair is eventually going to turn back around. I mean, Lex Luger's going to turn back around, and at that point, he's 6 inches away from Ric Flair's unders.
Yeah.
From his front area.
Yeah.
That's a great poster there. You should put it on when you cut this. You should put it on the thing.
Well, I thought you were taking over the show.
Well, once I get all set up, I'll let you know when I take over the show. I should take it over now just so I have it, so you don't give me any more guff now that you're offering it up.
I just want a conversation about changes.
Yeah. Anyways, I want to know what they're like in the comments, please. I'm legitimately curious.
Yeah, me too.
To know what other people's experiences
because there might be stuff that people suggest that I've never seen.
Yeah. Next up, we have Lawrence Eaton. Let's see what Lawrence has to say.
What's going on, front nose? The beardless bludgeon brother, Lawrence Eaton here, for my very first Patreon question. Today, I would like to know, after WrestleMania 34, do you think that if Big Cass came back as a heel with Enzo Amore, that they would be more over as a heel tag team than a face tag team? Thanks, friendos. Too sweet.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you.
I got to go first, right?
Yeah, okay.
This is a tough argument for me, but I'm going to say maybe.
Ooh.
Qualified yes. And here's the thing. I don't think they should reunite as a tag team just as heels now. I think there's enough heat between them still that on this I think they should work together. I think the relationship they should have is something more in line with HBK and Diesel, not dudes with attitude. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking when Diesel first showed up.
Yeah, sure.
So
Bodyguard.
Yes. So when Enzo is on 205 Live, he comes out with Cass. He's his muscle, his bodyguard. So that Enzo can get heel heat utilizing Cass and his size rather than have to talk for 15 minutes, making him turn the channel off. On Raw, Enzo can serve as Cass's mouthpiece still and help him during matches. Enzo can go to Cass and say, here, look, I'm not dead weight anymore. Here's the Cruiserweight title to prove it. I've won more championships than you have. Let's shake hands. We don't have to tag anymore, but let's work together so we can both advance. And they can still have some tension. It could be an interesting dynamic. Their days of being a tag team are done for the foreseeable future. Them as a heel tag team, as a non-starter, in 3 years, if they want to get back together as a face tag team for nostalgic purposes, cool, whatever. People might pop for that. I don't think I'd care. But just to put them back together as a tag team and make them heel, people are going to poop all over it. It needs to be a different dynamic if it's going to advance them at all. It's going to help them get over. And I think this sort of relationship might achieve that. And again, it's the formula. Quality heel run gets popular enough, people appreciate the work, can translate into eventual face turn and huge face run.
All right. They got to be a face. They just go back to what they were doing before. and on the trajectory that we all kind of thought we were going to get before, is Enzo as manager, Cass as single star. But it's got to start with them being a tag team again. And here's how you do it. What do we know about Enzo Amore?
He likes to talk.
Yeah, he's also very poisonous in terms of his relationships with people.
True.
Seemingly off screen and on screen. So eventually his storyline in 205 Live should be that he burns every possible bridge, and he has the entire, not just the opportunist, like, what does Daivari call himself? Daivari De Niro?
Yeah.
Not just, him, Gulak, all these guys who are kind of sucking up to Enzo a little bit. Opportunists. Eventually, he's even going to poison the well with them. And so he's going to have the entire contingent against him. He's not going to be able to swim out of it this time. And so what we're going to have is Cass's return right as Enzo is about to get his final violent comeuppance from the entire locker room. Cass comes in, sprays raid on those little ants, just swats them all away because he's giant. Picks up Enzo in his arms, and he carries him away. Because eventually, Enzo's going to be so pathetic that he's going to have to be a face because people are going to feel for him. Because when you piss so many people off, eventually you're just going to feel for the guy because nobody likes him. Nobody is going to hate a guy who doesn't have any friends. That's just sad, right? And so Cass comes in, he picks him up, he saves him, they become a tag team. Enzo repents, he asks for forgiveness. I want my friend. Nobody's ever going to take Cass as a heel because it just doesn't work. Didn't work last time, and it's not going to work again. He's too, I think naturally, he's probably just too sweet of a guy. The heel doesn't work for him. So put them back where they were as a tag team. Have them win the damn gold because they never had them do that.
Yeah, they should have done that.
See where they can, that's license print money right there. See what they can milk out of that, and then eventually transition Enzo into a managerial role for Cass. Have Cass go on a single. They love their big men. Have Cass feud with, Braun or whatever.
That's why I like my scenario of when Enzo was wrestling, Cass is his bodyguard, and when Cass is wrestling, then Enzo is more or less his manager. That way, it's kind of have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, that's good. It's all good stuff. Just it's not going to work as a heel.
No,
tag
probably
team.
not.
Next up, we have pretty boy Adam Mayhem. See what he has to say.
Buenas tardes, Friendo University. Bienvenidos to another edition of Chit Chat with the Champ here at the Ass Crack of Dawn because who needs sleep? Exactly. Anyway, Steven Larson, got a question for you. Been wondering about everybody that has been coming up from NXT, people that were extremely over at NXT. You got your Ty Dillingers, your Bobby Roodes, your Nakamura's, and your Joes, people that were super over, and how when they come up to Maine, they don't feel the same. They feel not as important. Joe feels very important, but we'll go back to that one. But here's the thing. Do you guys think that the reason why that's happening, it's because of the recorded nature of NXT, where you would see Nakamura, for example, once a month, and you would have a takeover once every 3 months. So every time he would come out, like it's a big deal, rather than having a show every week where if you don't see him, you're like, oh, he's getting buried because they're not using him, a la Ty Dillinger. Now, Joe, for example, you don't see him a lot, which I still think creates that mystique. So, did you guys think that the issue is with the seeing every wrestler every week, and then at NXT is just once a month? And which one is better? Have a good one, guys.
Thank you, Adam Mayhem.
Thank you, Adam. I'm sorry I was not able to attend Chaos on Claude Avenue.
Nor was I. I've been sick for a while.
One day we're going to get out. We're
Yes,
going to get out
definitely.
there. We'll put the H title on you. Anyways, to his question, NXT call-ups.
Yeah, you start.
Yeah. No, it's not that they're not on TV every week. Or it's not that,
In
yeah.
NXT, they weren't on TV every week.
Right,
yes.
Exactly. It's just, it's creative. That's why they don't, that's why they don't. Look, Kevin Owens every single week, he feels special because Kevin Owens has been around long enough Kevin Owens is creative enough. Kevin Owens is smart enough to take whatever it is creative might give him. And something tells me, and this is intuition, something tells me Kevin Owens is, what's the word I'm looking for? I had the word on the tip of my tongue.
A genius?
That, I think he's a really smart guy, but I think he takes the initiative backstage.
Yeah.
I think he's, I hate this word. I think he's proactive.
Yeah.
Backstage with creative. He probably comes up with a slew of ideas when he's on the road. If he's not driving and he's not talking about wrestling, which apparently everybody who's driven with him says, he talks endlessly about the business. He's always on Twitter, interacting with fans. We've seen that. I think he's coming up with ideas. And I think when he gets to the show, he probably goes to creative and says, hey, I have an idea to do this. And they probably say, okay, that sounds like a really good idea. We'll throw it to Vince, and Vince will approve it.
Here's the algorithm so far with NXT talents. This is what it is. If your first feud out of NXT is with a upper mid-card or main event caliber wrestler, instantly you have an aura about you that makes you feel special. Kevin Owens, for example. Samoa Joe, first feud was going to be against Seth Rollins until he hurt him, which actually gave Samoa Joe, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but just thought of this. Samoa Joe an air of actual danger because he hurt somebody.
Yeah.
Finn Balor, instantly, first Universal Champion, whereas Nakamura, first feud, mid-carder, Dolph.
Yeah, Bobby Roode,
Yeah.
mid-carder, Dolph.
I kind of feel like if you just look at who got called up and who they feuded with first, there's a reason why some NXT call-ups feel special and some kind of don't. Some lose their luster, and I think it's because their first feud, it doesn't feel special.
The first impression with these things are everything. They really are. And even you look at, they're now trying to backtrack with Asuka because it turns out, and I was willing to defend the idea of her going in there with Emma and having an actual match, and it did not feel special. You know, it didn't feel special. They tried to do it. They tried to build it up to those cool video packages, and those were pretty effective. If she had gone in there against a top caliber opponent,
if she went there against Bayley or Sasha
and immediately destroyed him, that would have been fantastic.
Yep.
That would have been something special.
Yep.
You know, and even there's nobody who can't recover. There's nobody that, like a Sasha, like a Bayley, who can't recover from a loss like that. Brock Lesnar had the most high-profile squash loss against Goldberg, and look at him. He's totally fine. They can handle the loss if it means putting over somebody who's a dominant opponent, and then you have to come back from that, and you do that through a series of wins.
That's a setting up story for later on.
Exactly.
I'm happy you mentioned Brock Lesnar because I think he's an example of what Adam Mayhem is talking about on the main roster, where he's seen as a special attraction. He's on TV every week, and so when he shows up, it's a huge deal. And I don't know if that's necessarily the intention on NXT. I think it's just the nature of how they have to shoot the show, and since it's only an hour long, you can't have, like when Finn was champ, he can't be on the show every week.
Yeah.
Drew's not on the show every week. So when you see him once or twice a month, it feels important. Oh, the champ's here. I got to pay attention. For real. For sure. Or when Aleister Black's on now. Something's cool is going to happen.
Yeah, but, I mean, come on.
I mean, part of it is Aleister Black. Yeah, mystique about him. I know.
He'd be there
but
every week.
when he's off TV for a while and he shows up, you're like, oh, cool. I get to experience this again. That's my point. Whereas on the main roster, pretty much everybody's on TV 90% of the time. And so there is it feels a routine sets in and it feels normal, and especially when you're used to these NXT stars only showing up on semi-monthly occasions, and especially when their creative is not that great, the luster comes off real quick.
We can agree on this one. It's a combination of things, and what you're saying is true, because the old adage of absence makes the
heart grow
fonder is absolutely true. It also helps quite a bit that with NXT, their creative is top notch.
Yeah,
it really is. And I actually have no doubt that if Aleister Black was to be on TV every week, if Drew McIntyre was on TV every week, we'd get something interesting every time. And also they pack so much into that hour that every second they get they make every second with
matter,
everybody
yeah.
count. So yeah, it's a little bit of A, a little bit of B. Next up from the cat, Daryl Takahashi.
How's it going, Stephen Larson and many friendos out there? It's the cat, Daryl Takahashi. My question or mad chat this week is, when Asuka eventually captures the Raw Women's Championship, do you feel she should go on another NXT type run where she just doesn't lose? Or do you feel she should find some struggle on the main roster and lose it once in a while. Thanks, boys.
Thank you, Daryl Takahashi.
Thank you. I'm going to say no.
But I get to go first. I say yes.
No.
It worked so well in NXT. It
Yeah.
established Asuka as a dominant force.
Yep.
And granted, I don't know if she can hold the belt for 500 or be undefeated for 500 or something days and hold the belt for more than a year. But give her, heck, yeah, why not? Give her a year-long reign, undefeated reign with the belt. Yes, do it. Have her beat most of her opponents, if not all of them, in dominant fashion. Make her seem like the mountain that no one is able to climb. So when someone eventually does, which we talked about a couple weeks ago, I believe, who should be the one to finally beat Asuka, it instantly, at least in theory, at that moment at least, catapults whoever beats Asuka into the upper echelon. They are a massive star because they're the ones who finally beat Asuka. So not only during that year-long process, or year and a half, however long she's undefeated on the main roster and has a belt, not only are you elevating Asuka and you're elevating the title because it's on a dominant champion, whoever eventually beats her is going to be elevated as well. So you're elevating two talents and a belt in the process of one storyline potentially. I mean, the difficult part is once you have whomever beat Asuka, what you do afterwards in terms of maintaining that momentum and not just kind of squandering a potential opportunity to create another huge superstar potentially on the same of the same caliber as Asuka. But yes, absolutely they should do it. It was huge in NXT. It worked massively there. I see no reason why it can't work massively on the main roster.
I think my gut agrees with you, but I'm going to make the case that we've already seen that. And we already know what it's like not to really have any drama behind an undefeated streak.
Well, the drama, I guess, in this first go-around would be, okay, Asuka's done that in NXT. In the perception of most people's minds is that it's still developmental. This is the main roster. The competition is going to be of a higher caliber.
Here's how you do it. She goes on maybe like a 3-month undefeated streak, right? And it wouldn't be anybody on main roster right now. You'd have to debut somebody kind of in the way they debuted Braun Strowman. Remember how they did?
Yeah.
Braun was in NXT, not as Braun Strowman, as a Rosebud.
He made a couple of appearances,
right?
yeah.
But this was a brand new guy, fresh straight to main roster, a new guy, right? So it can't be anybody like Nia Jax, Sasha Banks. It can't be any of those people, right? It has to be somebody brand new, somebody fresh. I'm thinking like a Jazzy Gabert or something like that. You know what I mean? It has to be somebody who can really, because we've seen Asuka has benefited already from the NXT undefeated streak. It would be so shocking if somebody brand new came up, not even from NXT, but like from the Mae Young Classic is fine. And I don't even know who necessarily. I think of Jazzy Gabert because she's huge. She's Braun-esque, So if you're gonna do it with somebody, do it with somebody like that, who can come in like a monster and manhandle the women's division. Because whoever beats Asuka in a shocking manner like that will electrify the women's division. Then you'll get the sense of dread that we didn't get, that we should have got when Asuka was announced as coming to Raw, because we never got that.
No, and that should have been the case. Instead of people lining up to face her.
Exactly. Everybody should have been freaked out by that. Yep. When they revealed like her video package, it should have been, that they should never, I'm not going to say that they messed it up. I just didn't think they debuted her on main as effectively as it should have been.
There could have been a whole lot more mystique around her debut, and beyond the video packages, there was virtually none.
Remember when Finn showed up to Raw the first time with the brand split? It felt so special.
Yeah.
And that's what it should have been with Asuka. And you can still take advantage of a mini undefeated streak. Let's say a 3 to 6 month undefeated streak. And maybe she gets the title, but it doesn't have to be for 500 days. You can still take advantage of that. Maybe she clears out the current main roster division. And that's kind of saying, an undefeated streak. But have somebody else come up and immediately destroy her, and everybody is put on notice. I think that could be an effective way because she has to lose eventually.
Yeah.
She has to lose eventually. Might as well do it during the middle of a streak that you think is going to be 500 days, but it's really like 200 days.
Yeah.
So that's my take.
We're kind of splitting hairs by about 100 days.
It's not always black and white, people.
No. Next. from Ben Kirkwood. Let's see what Ben has to say.
Hey friend, this is Ben Kirkwood here. My match question is, it seems like it's been a really long time since the broken gimmick has been in the, wrestling world. I'm wondering if, Steve, do you think if it came back, it would be as popular, or maybe its time has passed? And Larson, I want you to maybe say it should stay in TNA, and maybe it should have been a thing that happened last year, and it wouldn't be any use anymore, and it wouldn't be popular. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, wonderful, Benjamin. Yeah, oh, yeah, wonderful. No, it's dead and buried. It's dead and buried. You can't do it anymore. You can't do it anymore, man. It's not good.
That's all you're gonna say?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't know. The fans would still mark out, but it's kind of obvious at this point that they're not going to let him do. And here's the thing. I'm sure when Jeff Hardy went down with injury, Matt Hardy probably presented them, Vince, whoever, a laundry list of possibilities for him to do something as a solo act and do something along the lines. I mean, look, you and I have had the idea for a while now to take the broken thing to the next level. And given Matt Hardy's Twitter feed, his output on Twitter, talking about awoken, woke, I think there's been any number of other, adjectives or whatever they're called. What are the adverbs? If I'm broken, that's an adjective. Yeah. I'm sure he's had any number of ideas. I just don't think that they're interested anymore. And if they were somehow to get the broken thing, I mean, I don't know what it would take. I don't know what it would take. I don't know if Anthem would sell it to WWE or what. I'm sure the fans would mark out, but at this time, it's like I don't have faith that the WWE would let him do what needs to be done for the broken thing. I'm sure that he's wanted to do something along the lines of it, but I just know that, look, would the fans mark out if they let him do what the broken thing was? Maybe. But at this point, God, he's jobbed so much as a singles competitor. I'm not sure it would have the same impact as it would have 6 months ago.
No, him jobbing sets up the broken gimmick. I'll kind of half agree with you. It's not going to be as huge potentially as it would have been if they had been able to get the rights for that or settle the rights issue before they debuted.
Mm-hmm.
Nonetheless, I do think that if Matt Hardy were to somehow get the broken gimmick, enough time has now passed where it would almost kind of be a nostalgic thing now. It'd be a nostalgia act, but for something he only did a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And the WWE would definitely be interested in it if they think it could make them some money. I think once the second that Matt Hardy gets the rights to that IP, they're going to start printing off broken T-shirts all over the place.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And the delete chants are not what they used to be when they came back at WrestleMania, but they're still there. He's still inserting just enough of the broken character into his promo work to keep it alive, just in case he somehow gets the rights to it and can start using it. So I don't think it would if he were to get the rights, it would be as popular, as huge as it could have been, but it would still be modestly popular and would give him something to do. The problem is, I'm sure he would go to Vince or whomever in creative and say, here, I have all these ideas, and he probably won't be able to do any of them.
Yeah.
I think that's probably going to be the real roadblock, whether he gets the IP or not.
Yeah. I mean, no, that's exactly what it is. It's sad because, the WWE just won't. I don't know. I do imagine that he's probably given them a laundry list of ideas of what they can do, and they've just said, no, we're good. We're going to, you're a great nostalgia act. You guys can still go. Jeff is still great. We might push him to moon someday. But, it doesn't seem like it's going to be happening anytime soon.
Nope.
Martin Garcia has a question. Let's see what he has to say.
Hey, friendos. Martin here again. WCW has done a lot of stuff. It impacted the wrestling business. But there's two moments that everyone says is disrespect. What's the most disrespectful moment in wrestling history for wrestling that WCW did? Was it Jay Leno putting a hold on Hulk Hogan back in those Wild Hog days, or David Arquette winning the WCW title? You guys pick. Debate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Martin.
Oh, I got to go first.
Oh, you're going to go first?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
go
can.
ahead.
All right, so I did a little bit of research into, was it Road Wild 98, which saw Jay Leno.
Was it Road Wild or Hog Wild?
Road
It was
Wild.
Road Wild?
Hog Wild was before.
So that was a thing, okay.
It was a name before, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, they changed to Road Wild. Jay Leno teamed up with Diamond Dallas Page to take on Hollywood Hogan and Eric Bischoff at Road Wild 98 in Sturgis, South Dakota, during the motorcycle rally there, because Eric Bischoff loves himself some motorcycles.
He loved motorcycles.
He loved motorcycles.
Wasn't Jay Leno wearing sweatpants?
Yeah. Which is actually a reason for it to be like for me to give the thumbs up. Because sweatpants are comfortable. If I was going to wrestle, I'd want to wrestle with sweatpants too.
Yeah.
So they involved Tonight Show in this angle, which if you look at it kind of in a vacuum, you'd think, okay, well you're using the top-rated late night show to push storyline. That's great exposure for the company. But then you utilize someone in their 50s in Jay Leno, not Hogan, Jay Leno, to be a competitor.
I honestly didn't know who you're referring to. At that point.
To be a competitor in this match, who in fact has zero wrestling experience. I don't even know if he is in any way a fan of this sport, much less appreciates it on any level. But because of that, I would say that's in a lot of ways, and many more, which I'll get to. The Jay Leno experiment, I think, was kind of a precursor to the Arquette thing, in that they saw how kind of successful it was.
I feel like you want to throw up talking about
I gotta
this.
do. How kind of successful it was. I ran out of water. That's the problem. Yeah. And thought, okay, well, let's take it to another level potentially, because I did a little looking into it.
Okay, what's your research show you?
The 365,000 people purchased Road Wild 98, which was down for the previous month's pay-per-view Bash at the Beach, but in comparison to the previous two Road Wilds, 97, the previous one, and the one after, was a significant improvement.
Okay.
Road Wild 97, 240,000 buys. Road Wild 99, 235,000 buys. So I was curious, okay, when Arquette won the belt and he had that match where he defended it in that giant cage thing, what did that do? 65,000. I don't know how many people were really paying attention to WCW at the time. Yeah. Granted, I know it got a lot of mainstream exposure.
I see your
Vince
point,
was saying, or Vince Russo was saying, we got on the cover of USA Today. It's great exposure for the company, so on and so forth. Be that as it may, the only people who really look at USA Today are business travelers.
In the hotels.
Who might not even care about wrestling anyways.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many people who watch the Tonight Show care about wrestling, but I would think maybe, I don't know, I'm not 100%, that the audience for the Tonight Show is greater than the circulation of USA Today. Therefore, more people probably made aware of Jay Leno's wrestling experience than might have been aware of David Arquette winning the championship. And anyways, by that time, Slamboree 2000, it seems like no one's really paying attention to WCW anyways, whereas this is the midst of Monday Night War, Road Wild 98, True. The heights of it.
Yeah.
People were paying attention to wrestling.
Yeah.
By 2000, summer of 2000, WWF was fully ensconced as the victor of the Monday Night Wars. They hadn't purchased the company yet. That would happen about 6 months later. But in 98, it was still competitive.
Yeah.
And the embarrassment of having Jay Leno in the ring against Hulk Hogan and putting holds on him, it's not good.
Yeah, it's not good.
So I would say that was probably, in some respects, the more significant embarrassment to WCW.
Yeah, I mean, this one's kind of tough, because that point. So here's the thing: getting him on the Tonight Show, great. What your point about the statistic is they did a good job selling a pay-per-view with a huge celebrity. They got on the Tonight Show. I think that's fantastic. The Tonight Show kind of legitimized WCW, I would think, to a lot of people. Mainstream attention, who's going to turn that down? Your one point about Leno putting holds on Hogan is that's your best point, because there's no way he should be in there with Hogan. But also, the product that WCW was presenting at the time, if that many people were buying it, then they're buying into the idea that celebrities can get in there and wrestle and tassel with other wrestlers. So if you're buying into that universe, then it's not really disrespecting the universe to be doing that.
Here, I'm going to counter with this. So, two previous pay-per-views to Road Wild 98 got 290,000, 580,000 buys respectively. The pay-per-view after Road Wild, 275.
Yeah.
And the one after that, 310, 250. It just goes downhill from there.
Yeah. So Leno popped ratings.
He brought people in. Doesn't seem like people were sticking around. It seemed like people were starting to flee at that juncture.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's a draw. On the other hand, you had David Arquette as WCW champion. At the end of the day, boy, I use that term a lot. Celebrities come into wrestling, celebrities leave. If Ronda Rousey shows up to the WWE, you can damn well be sure that she's going to be pinning whoever it is she's facing off against. Would you consider that disrespectful? I probably would. Does it bring in a lot of eyeballs and a lot of money?
A huge
Hold on a
between
second.
Ronda Rousey,
I'm in
who
the
was a
middle.
decorated MMA
I'm in
fighter
the
who has
middle
wrestling
of
who has
my
experience in fight sports versus a guy they brought up from behind the
Do
desk.
I get a talk?
Who wrestles in sweatpants?
Am I allowed to
Carry
talk?
on.
Am I allowed to
I'm
talk?
done.
He's interrupting me.
I'm done.
All right. Leno was just the latest in a long line of celebrities who showed up in pro wrestling, did something, and left. You know, the fans just, they understand this is a stupid celebrity, blah, 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 blah. David Arquette wore the same belt that Ric Flair wore, that Harley Race wore, that Terry Funk wore, that Orville Brown wore, that
It wasn't the same belt Orville Brown wore.
well, had the lineage.
Had the lineage, but it wasn't.
That Sting wore, that, I don't know who, the Briscoe brothers wore, not the current Briscoe brothers, but Jack Briscoe, Jerry Briscoe, Bob Briscoe, William Briscoe,
Dory Funk.
Orville Briscoe, Dory Funk, Ric Flair,
Dusty Rhodes,
Triple H, Booker T,
Lex
Luger, Ron Simmons,
Vader.
Thank you. I was looking for Vader. Sid. David Arquette wore that same belt. That's a stain. That's a butt stain on the lineage of the NWA title. What's his name? Tim Storm. That's a nasty booty stain on the lineage of the most prestigious title in the history of pro wrestling. That is far more disrespectful and disgusting than just another celebrity coming in, putting on a couple holds on Hulk Hogan, who's well past his prime. Who really cares? Everybody goes home and they've seen, a fun little fight. David Arquette, a D-level comedian, movie actor, comes in and has the belt around his waist. Same belt that Orville Brown wore.
Wasn't the same belt. Here's another thing, though. David Arquette won that belt on an episode of Thunder, which no one watched.
Yeah.
He defended the title at a pay-per-view. That no one watched.
Yeah, well,
I don't think people cared at that point.
If they didn't watch
No
it or
one
not.
cared at that point.
That belt has lineage.
I understand that the question is which match was a stain on the belt. It's not a stain of the company of WCW.
What matters is lineage. Because at the end of the day, you can look at the lineage and be like, wow, what a proud, fantastic, what the Vince Russo had this title. Blech, that's disgusting. And diarrhea goes everywhere. Just a horrible scene. Blood, pus. It's nasty.
It's gross.
This is just guys having fun, Road Wild. Bischoff likes motorcycles. Who doesn't? I want to be in a gang. I don't know what that means. So anyways, the answer is David Arquette because it affects the lineage, which actually matters. Look, man, Jay Leno, who else millions of people have gotten in the ring. Lots of people have gotten in the ring. Mr. T got in there with freaking, what's his face, Roddy Piper. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying.
Mr. T was a boxer, I think, though.
Yeah.
He won tough man competitions.
Yeah, maybe. Anyways, we got one more video question.
Do we?
Yeah, we do.
Oh,
it just came in. Yep.
From who?
We got one from Bobby. Let's see what Bobby has to say.
Hey, friendos. Bobby Mincy here with another Matt Chat question. I'll try to make it as simple as possible. Heel to face turn or face to heel turn? Which one's better? Which one's more enjoyable? And which one do we all pop for more? Have a good one, guys. Too sweet.
Thanks, Bobby.
Thank you.
It's face to heel because, man, I just remember I have a better, more ingrained memory about some of the all-time heel turns that I've witnessed in my life. You said it earlier in the show, Survivor Series 98, the greatest show in professional wrestling history when Rock turned heel. Hulk Hogan turning heel, and you saw the response that got. Steve Austin, that went over like a wet fart. In the history of pro wrestling, heel turns, that's why you like the word heel, the phrase heel turn, even is one that you just think of more when you think, oh, a turn, face turn? Nobody wants to turn face. Who cares about that? Heel turn. That's those are more iconic in the history of professional wrestling. I think of some of the great heel turns. Orville Brown.
Oh, goodness.
Farmer Brown.
You don't know if he worked heel or face at all.
I have Did they even have that back then? I don't
know.
know. I have no idea what they did. I don't know what they're doing.
I don't know either.
Back then.
Are you done?
NWO Wolfpack. No, that's a face turn. Yeah, I'm done. It's heel turns. Come on, it's heel turn.
Heel turns are more shocking, but a good face turn is
name one
more satisfying.
Name one.
Stone Cold turning face, launching him into superstar with his match against Bret Hart.
When he turned tweener? That's not really.
The Rock. Turn. The thing is heel turns are sudden and dramatic and shocking.
Yeah.
Really good face turns are gradual.
Yeah.
It's the formula I talk about. A really well executed heel run. When the crowd starts to appreciate your work as a heel, starts to embrace your heel work, that it's impossible for you to be heel any longer.
Name some iconic face turns.
New Day. So here's the thing. That's what I'm saying. They're not dramatic. The good ones, the great ones, aren't dramatic.
And what do you tune into pro wrestling for? The drama.
Storytelling.
The drama.
And when you see the New Day turn heel, because the crowd just can't, they just love the New Day so much that a face turn just can't be denied. The Rock, after Survivor Series 98, people loved his work so much. He was so entertaining. The crowd said, nope, we're not going to boo you anymore. We're going to cheer you. Just seeing that evolution, that process happen is so satisfying. When people get to that point where they're so huge that face turn just elevates them to superstardom, it's so satisfying to watch and so much fun. That's why I prefer it. They're not as shocking, not as dramatic.
It's heel turn because it's drama, it's moments, it's memories. It's the heel turn. That's what it is. Anyways.
Face turns lead to more money for the company and the respected stars.
Well, yeah, man, because merchandise. People want to wear face
for
stuff.
wrestlers, I'm sure they prefer the face turns.
Well, that's probably true. Anyways, that's it for Matt Chat. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you guys want to be on the show, it's easy. Pony up $20. And until next time, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.